Hello. So here I am. My name's Gabrielle, and I'm sure some of you know me. I was in Scientology for a good 26 years, and I was actually in Scientology in Vancouver. I currently live in Ontario, though, and missing BC very much. I have a long story since it's been many, many years. um, since I was in. I'm also looking at the chat, so it's awesome. I'm so glad people showed up. That was my biggest fear. Hi, Lorna. Hi, Michelle and Reese and Anne. Mary Gabrielle Southers, your name is very, very familiar. And of course, Matt Elliott, MAA SPTV Canada. Hi, heard you started your channel. That's awesome. I'm going to have to check it out. Anyways, today, for the first time, I wanted to get into a little bit of not a deep dive, but an overview of an aspect of the protest that I experienced when I was in Scientology. I was what's called the HCO area secretary. That's the person who's in charge of all of HCO. And yeah, so they're like the HR, like I said, HR division. They're in charge of all the hiring, firing, training. I sent people down to flag, unfortunately. I was also in charge of communications, all the incoming and outgoing emails. And also it's called telexes that were sent up to management. I would have to do that. And then, of course, the large area of ethics and justice. That's basically the punishment department, which in essence is what it is. So, yeah, that was a large area that I was in charge. And I have to just check this out here. Matt, look at that. He stopped by Cambridge, Oregon Saturday and posted a quick 2.5 minute video. I'm going to watch that. I really do want to go. I'm very close to Cambridge now that I live in Ontario, maybe about an hour from you, Matt. I think we discussed this. So we're going to have to do something because it's hard to just sit by and watch these protests go by without participating. Yeah. So anyways, oh, there's somebody else from Hamilton. Awesome. You're about what, a couple hours away then? Oh, Celeste Commodore. I'm really bad with names, but hello. Celeste, is it? Commodore. Okay, good. So what is this? Hit that like button. Oh, thank you, Nancy. Okay, so bear with me. It's my first solo live, and I'm probably going to bounce around a little bit. I have taken notes, so I'll periodically sort of glance over just to keep myself on track. I'll start off when, oh, somebody from Barrie. Oh my gosh, I can't believe all you people from Ontario and Canada are coming in here. I love it. Oh, I'm a little farther up the highway from you. Yes. Yes, you are, Nancy. Oh, you guys, there's a few of us around here in Ontario. We really do have to do something. Cambridge is the org to go to. It's an ideal org here in Canada. I actually know some staff that were taken from Vancouver org and shipped off to Cambridge to man it up because I guess there wasn't enough people. Thank you, Mary. Oh, and look at this. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for your support. Look who showed up. Just popped in to say hi. Love you, Jeff. Enjoy your holiday. Oh boy. Hi, Alex. Good to see you too. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. It's so awesome. Okay, so I'm going to get to the task at hand here. So Anonymous started up in around 2008. I think it was early 2008. And there was a large protest organized, um, I guess, around most of the orgs across the world. And so my experience in our little corner of the planet in Vancouver, British Columbia, it was actually quite daunting. Um, the first thing we were instructed to do, especially me as the one and only HCO personnel, was to make sure all the blinds were closed. So everybody basically had to hide from these people. Um, and it was all very peculiar. What is this? Don't forget to hide the comments after you. Okay, thank you. Good gosh. Thanks for the coaching, Alex. That's so cute. Uh, um, so yeah, we had to close all the blinds, and which was really peculiar to me because um, why would we have to do that? Because the policy is, we go after SPs. We annihilate them. If anybody has done the PTSSP course, the course's name is called what is it, PTSSP, ways to shatter suppression or whatever. So we're supposed to be armed with this PTSSP tech, and we are the only ones on the planet that are able to shatter suppression. And so I guess a bit of cognitive dissonance was sort of rolling around in my head. It's like, so why are we closing all the or all the blinds and stuff? And there was actually a lot of protesters. There was probably over 100, and I mean, I think there was maybe about 30 or 40 staff at the time, and they usually protested on the weekends, of course. So anyway, so this one day it was like I was actually scared. It was the first time anything like this had ever happened since I was on staff, and I didn't know who they were because you're very insulated from all the news. You keep yourself insulated from all the news, and and so there we are, nobody really knew what was going on. And we had very little information from the Department of Special Affairs, or as most of you guys know it, OSA, Office of Special Affairs. So in a Class 5 org, they're called Department of Special Affairs. And that person in Vancouver happens to be Sharon Werner. I want to make sure you all know that name. She's a very nasty lady. Apparently, she's at Flag right now, training on the organization executive course. And I'm really hoping that one of these days, Erin catches her on camera and I will just freak right out. Anyways, so she's actually my nephew's mother-in-law. Yeah, lots of family connections all over the place, even in little old Canada. So there we are. We're behind the lines there, and there's a lot of hollering and shouting, and these guys were actually when I look back, they were actually quite happy to be there, which was also odd. And they were all wearing masks. I'm sure you guys see, if I'm going to learn how to do this screen sharing stuff, I'm sure you guys have seen the masks. And I found out later that the reason for the masks, I mean, it was the Guy Fawkes mask, and there's a whole bunch of history behind that. But they were all afraid or concerned about the fair game, and that something would happen to them. Which in fact did. That's a little later on. So yeah, they wanted to stay hidden away, so there was no fair game. So this kept going on. I mean, this was a pretty big day. The other people that actually joined the anonymous crowd was the free zone or the independent field. So a lot of the ex-Scientologists that went on to still practice Scientology outside corporate Scientology. So they were part of it as well. So I remember seeing a few very familiar faces. Of course, they were declared. And, I was shocked. I was just like, "Wow, what is going on?" And I felt very threatened, and I felt very afraid. It's just like, "What is going on?" You know, the idea of Scientology in my head was that, we're the good guys. Oh, boy. And, so they're all standing across the street and with their signs, and we were told not to look out. I mean, I of course, I'm curious, so I looked out. My office, if you've ever seen the Vancouver org, um, I was down on, Homer Street, my office, and it was one of there's, like, these big glass panels that surround the top of the building, and my office actually had the glass panel removed. Apparently, it cracked, so I actually had a window that could open, and I could look outside and see Hastings and Homer. And, so I peeked out. That's how I saw these other, former Scientologists who are now SPs protesting in front of me. Um, and I actually had, her name is Jackie. I won't give her last name out. I think she's still in too. But her father, who had been declared, was standing right outside, and she hadn't seen him since he had been declared, and it had been years. And she was in tears. She couldn't believe that was her father out there. Um, yeah. Anyways, it was quite dramatic for us behind the scenes. And so this whole thing continued for, I think, almost a year. And all sorts of things were done to try and, somehow control them. Police were called. I actually called the police plenty of times. That would be the RCMP here in Canada, Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And I talked to a few of the officers, and they basically told me obviously there's nothing we could do about it unless they trespassed. And so so I would talk to them once in a while, and I'd say, "Look, this is harassment," and which is something that I hear the Scientologists, the Sea Org members say now too, to the Squirrel Squad. Um, and he's like, "Well, you know what? They have a right to do what they're doing." And I was very insistent, saying, "It's harassment. How can we carry on our religious services and all this other kind of nonsense, right?" I mean, they didn't do anything. They would actually just sit in their patrol car and watch what was going on if they were called. Um, and then there were, like, all these signs and stuff like that, and, it was like they had Lisa something about Lisa McPherson and Xenu, and I was just like, "What is this? What are they talking about? This is so silly, I don't understand." But, we were basically told, actually, it wasn't basic, we were firmly told not to mingle with them, not to talk to them. And, I know on one of Jeff's videos on his channel, he has a short clip of Scott Ackerman, one of the Scientologists in Vancouver, basically getting into a verbal argument and swearing at this guy who was anonymous. And it was actually quite gross what he said to him. And that was like the stuff that was going on. Like, nobody had any idea who these guys were. We weren't told. DSA knew perfectly well who they were. They would be. I remember walking by the DSA office one day, and the other lady in DSA, Susan Kerr, she was sitting there on her computer. Um, and I was like, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" And I popped my head in, and she was now, Susan Kerr was actually OT7, I think, at the time. So she was the one sort of in charge of um, basically trolling the anonymous guys and finding out who they were, and also finding out when these protests were. So that's it was a very peculiar thing. It's like, well, why is she, on the internet looking at suppressive information? And I never understood that. this is how dumb you are when you're in the cult, right? It's so you're given such little information, and you don't even try to find out what's going on. And I think the main reason for not finding out what's going on and who these anonymous guys are and stuff like that is because you're afraid. You're afraid to look because you're told not to. You're told that these guys are suppressives, they're squirrels, um, and they're bad. So, and I had never even like you read about these SPs in like the policies of Scientology, but you're like looking at SPs outside, and it's like, they're just people. And then like again, this cognitive dissonance going on in your head. And so anyways, like I said, this went on for almost a year at least, on weekends and stuff like that, and it slowly petered out. Um, Not dumb, trained to not question. Exactly, Nancy. Um, but you feel dumb. This is the thing. You feel dumb because you don't know what's going on, and you're just the only thing that would happen at like when we would have staff musters is the DSA would come down, Sharon or Susan would come down and read this one policy about, when the squirrels are screaming, we're winning, something to that. It's called signs of success. It's like, it's so stupid because, I mean, they're probably doing the same thing now. They're like, oh, we're winning. We're doing so well. That's why these people are protesting us so much. Um, and you believe it. You believe it hook, line, and sinker, unfortunately. So the other thing that had to happen is we weren't allowed to let staff out the front door because all of the protesters were out front. And so instead, we had to, I mean, me and another guy, Andy, who is actually now doing my position. I have a little story for him or about him. Um, he and we would have to man the doors at lunchtime to let all the staff out, which of course meant I didn't get lunch. Um, but this is all because you're so dutiful and obedient. And a lot of times the anonymous, they figured it out, obviously. So they'd run around to the back of the org or to the side and start talking. I mean, they were just talking to us, and we were trained. Like when I'm watching these guys, like especially when they were at the AO in LA, and they were just looking straight forward. They were totally ignoring everything. It's like that's exactly what our staff would do when they left, and that's what they were instructed to do. Do not pay attention to them. Do not engage. Just carry on. So that's and I know they've had more protests in LA than in Vancouver. They've had all sorts of protests going on there, from large crowds to smaller few crowds. Um, so so it was such a pain in the ass all the time, right? So then we'd have to then wait, or we'd get texts. Okay, can you let us in the door? So we'd have to run down the stairs. It's a 3-story building. Run down the stairs, open up the door, let everybody in. And there was a few altercations. No sort of no physical, nothing physical, just verbal. Um, but I mean, all in all, it was just upsetting for me. I remember just being really upset. It's like, oh my God, they're here again. So your whole day would be thrown off because you're running all around the org, making sure that people are getting out. Nobody's peeking out the window and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, so that was sort of like the perspective from the inside looking out. It was scary. It was very disruptive. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why they were doing it. I found out, of course, after I got out, that was as a result of that leaked Tom Cruise video which is the biggest cringer of all. Even when I was in, and I remember seeing that at the event, and it was just, oh god, how could he do that? He was like that psychotic laugh of his, you know? It was like, they just put some horns on him or something. I don't know, it was gross. And, oh yeah, and the couch, him jumping on the couch, that was another very my husband and I discussed that. It was just like, "Really? Like, that's just a little bit too enthusiastic, dude." So, well, the other thing that happened while the anonymous was protesting is it was the first time I met Jerry Armstrong. Um, I don't know if people know who Jerry Armstrong is. He's actually from BC, originally from Chilliwack. Who he was actually LRH's archivist. So he was in charge of all of the diaries. He was the one that actually leaked all the personal information of LRH because he was archiving all the diaries he kept, his records, family records, and he found all these boxes. And he was reading them, and he found out that Hubbard was basically lying about everything. And it's a long story, so I'm not going to get into it. But like I said, I later found out when I talked to somebody about Jerry, and I was still in, that he was basically like the biggest SP that was in our area. And he was also being followed by and spied on, or basically fair gamed in Chilliwack where he lived. And that was like that wasn't the worst part. He was fair game pretty heavily by Mike Rinder. And I know there's quite a bit of animosity there with Jerry in regards to Mike. I mean, I know Jerry's life was ruined completely. They did a number on him. And but yeah, Jerry has a website. I've been hoping to get him on, but and do an interview with him because he's a fascinating man. When I was in Chilliwack, we had him come over, 3 or 4 times, and we talked to him, and he sort of gave us his story. He worked like with LRH, and he knows all the people from back in the day. Like I think he was in like 60s. Like he was in around the time I was born, and I'm not young. So anyways, I met Jerry. He was at the side door, and I was standing holding the door open so people could come in from lunch, and he started talking to me. And I was like really gnarly with him, and then he started to talk about he just started to talk like a Scientologist. And I was like, "Oh my god. He knows all the he knows the language, he knows the vernacular." And I'm like, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm like OT5." I'm like, how does he know about that, right? I was like totally perplexed. So, and like I said, that stuck in my head. And I remember talking to Jerry when I finally met him years later. I told him, I said, Jerry, that really stuck in my head. The fact that one of these protesters actually spoke to me in my language. It was very jarring. So anyways, so that was my first encounter with Jerry. I was going to actually mention something about when these protesters were outside, the DSA would actually call all the OTs in the area, and they would more or less summon them down to the org and get them to stand outside. And I really don't know what they were trying to accomplish. Maybe they were supposed to like put out their OT powers so they'd go away, or defend any sort of whatever weird OT comments or weird like Xenu comments and stuff like that. Like they could sort of handle the Xenu stuff because obviously they knew who Xenu was. So, and I remember my husband being called down, and, he was none too happy about it because he really at this point, he was slowly 2008, yeah, it wasn't that long after a few years after he actually he read the Debbie Cook letter and just slowly started moving his way out, sort of disconnecting from Scientology, you could say. Um, so yeah, they would make them stand out there, and it wasn't fun because they would be out there for a number of hours. And then, um, after the anonymous people would sort of disperse, there was a few, OTs that were assigned to following them. Um, one of the things, or one of the stories I heard, was that, one guy was they leave the protest and then they take their masks off, and the OTs would actually take their picture. So, it's that's kind of gross. It's like basically stalking them. And so these pictures were then downloaded, and they had this huge binder. And then they would go and search for them on the internet. They were very, very resourceful. I guess that's probably all they really did, because I never got any help from them when I was in there. So, yeah, they dedicated a lot of their time to just surfing the internet, or trolling the internet for these guys, right? And they had nicknames for them. Then they would have their basically their mugshot there, and they would call them by name when they would see them outside. I was like, who the hell's that? How do you guys know? Oh, well, it's neat to know. You don't worry about it. You don't want to be intribulated. And I'm like, well, I do need to know. What do I tell people when they come to me and ask me what's going on, right? So anyways, like I said, they tried to keep you dumb so you wouldn't ask any questions. So anyways, that was kind of like the nuts and bolts of having Anonymous around. And I mean, that went on for a year. That was a long time, right? And it sort of petered off, which, when I was thinking about doing this live, it sort of dawned on me that, there's been a lot of protests on Scientology, or against Scientology, and there's been a lot of attacks. And, Scientology has stood up to all of this. These guys are in it for the long haul. So, um, we need to dig in, basically. You need to dig in for the long haul if you really want to see these guys gone. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, I've noticed that even the LA, the Squirrel Squad, it's kind of petering away. And this is exactly what they do. They sort of beat you down, wear you down. They do that in their lawsuits. They have a lot of money. It's like we are really up against Goliath. And they have very deep pockets and a lot of lawyers, and yeah, resources, endless resources. So, yeah, it was just something I really wanted to communicate. So this isn't going to be a short, sort of, oh yay, we got rid of them. And it's going to take a lot of attack from all sides. And I do want to mention, I mean, they are making some inroads. I know Alex is making some waves in the UK as well. And I really want to see some stuff happening in Canada, because what does Nancy say? I don't think there is any quit in the ending of. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can actually stop it. I don't think you can actually stop Scientology. I think you can hurt them. I think you can sully their reputation. One of the things they really pride themselves in is their goodwill. And that's just from being on the inside. Um, so yeah, just understand it's not gonna be, what do they call it? A quick and dirty kind of, thing to get rid of them. It's been going on for years, and people have thrown a lot at it. But, what I wanted to also mention, oh yeah, just sort of segue into the other protest, that really, I think, really had an impact on me anyways, was the one in that Alex and Jeff and the rest of those wonderful UK people, um, got into at St. Hill for the IAS event. I mean, that was big. That was a really big thing, and, it was well organized. I was impressed, and, again, the live stream stuff is amazing. That is really changing the whole sort of history, on how to get rid of Scientology, or at least wound them, do something, like hurt them bad. That's what needs to happen. I mean, honestly, I thought with the Masterson case, that was gonna, take a good chunk out of them, but they're so well insulated from attacks. It's crazy. Um, yeah, so and getting exposure. I mean, most of the anti-Scientology exposure does come from the US, obviously because of there's most of the Scientologists are there. You don't hear much from Europe. Um, except from Hungary, which, I was very proud of my native land. That's, my parents were there. I'm a second generation Canadian, or no, sorry, first generation Canadian. And, so it's there's trickles, right? There's some trickles, and everything counts. So we just got to keep going at it. And these protests, like I said, the live streams are like the exposure is huge. When I was watching the Squirrel Squad at first, it was very triggering. Let me tell you. And because I was on the other side, and because of all the fear that was there, and I mean, I probably would go so far as to say PTSD from it. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. But I did cringe. I felt a little bit offended by the way they were, calling the Sea Org guys names and stuff like that. But I kept watching, and, it slowly started to sink in, going, this is just massive exposure. These are non-Scientologists, again, like the anonymous guys. They are standing up and saying, not in my backyard. And it was amazing. And then as I'm watching, and I mean, watching Streets LA, the guy, he's a smart cookie, and, he knows his stuff. It's fascinating to watch him, and he's got very good control on the group, and I mean, I'd be afraid to see what would have happened without him there. Um, so yeah, it's all very eye-opening to watch this stuff happen, from my side, from the good guy's side, right? And I'm really happy it's happening. It's just like, finally, we're trying to, like, sort of chip away at this big, huge monster. Um, and what else did I want to say? Oh yeah. Anyways, the thing is, the more eyes on the cult, the better. Um, the more exposure, obviously, the better. And we have to. I mean, I talked to Phil. Lorna mentioned it here, and I don't want to make too much of a mention of it. Um, there's like different angles, that you can you can take in, because Canada, Scientology isn't taxes exempt in Canada. And I know they actually tried a few times to, to get the tax exemption, and our government agency is not um, is not having any of it. So yeah, it's never going to happen. So but there's other things like we have minimum wage policies here, and we all know that the staff do not get paid minimum wage. Staff in class 5 orgs get paid a different way. It fluctuates all the time. I mean, there was times where I got $200 a week, very few. And then there was times where, it was like a buck. So there's no way you could live on that stuff. So and it was hard. It's hard to be a staff member in one of these lower organizations because you have to have, your life. You have to provide your own food, provide your own shelter. And most of us had jobs outside, and and then you're just juggling. You're trying to juggle everything, and it's a challenge. But so I mean, that's about all I wanted to say about the protests. I'm very happy it's happening. It's a very different perspective watching it from Canada, and so yeah, I hope to. I'm just going to keep watching and keep rooting, and hopefully we can maybe organize something here too, just to sort of support the guys in the U.S. Where if there's about 2016. What does Matt say? 2000. Yeah, there's about 1,700 people that identify as Scientologists in Canada, and I don't know what the population is, but there's a lot of us. So it's a very small percentage, and I don't know if that was 2021. I thought it was 2011. Hang on, let me just read this whole thing. So he says the most recent census data from 2011, not sure why none in 2021, in Canada shows 1,745 identify as Scientologists. So that's 2011. So you can take a couple of those numbers off of there, at least, because I've left and I know a few more. Maybe if they're lucky, 1,700. So anyways, let me see here. I want to check things out, see who's saying what here. So there's a lot of people saying hello. So we have people from Quebec. Loved Ontario and Quebec. Oh, as well. Maybe someday I'll get to visit again. Yes, you should come here. You'd love it. And we got this one. Matt said he went and I wish, Matt, you should post your YouTube channel. And yeah, so people can go check out that little clip. What else? A little further away. Somebody from Edmonton is here. Oh, here we go. Nancy, Maud. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but I'm sure we could figure it out. Okay. What does he say here? Oh, Alex. Aw. Not that fake Ontario one. That's cute. Here's another one. Not Ottawa. Wow, this is so awesome. Look at this. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for the support. Okay, I'm quickly scrolling down here. Okay. Let's see here. Any more? Oh, she says 40 million. Thank you, Lorna. She's my stats girl. She knows all about that. She can help me here. Michelle says about 1,500. Oh, that's Nancy. Sorry, Nancy. About 1,500. Yeah, I think that's a good guess by now. They're all trickling off. And here's another quick comment. Oh wow, how do you pronounce your name? Sharana? Ooh, I'm so bad with names. It's always nice to hear perspectives and stories from our neighbors up north, viewing from greater New Orleans area. Oh, cool. Well, thank you. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to keep it short. Um, Definitely we've been going for around 40 minutes. If anybody has a question, fire off, fire something off. Um, I'd be happy to answer anything. Um, I try and do my best to stay connected to all the other channels, and I enjoy watching everybody pretty much. And as a Canadian, we're pretty friendly and we're very nice and we're very polite for the most part. Um, what is this? What does Lorna say here? Canada gained 3.5 million people between, wow, and lost 365 Scientologists. Yeah. Wow. What is my email address? Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. Why don't you do the Gabrielle_Toth at yahoo.ca? That's my personal one. And then I have the other one, escaping Scientology A at gmail.com. It's long though. I probably should figure something else out to shorten it. Anyways, thank you all so much for joining me. It's been awesome. I was kind of fumbly and stuff like that, but I'll get used to this. I'll get used to talking to a screen with my picture in it. It's really strange, but I want to get stuff out, and we really need to step things up in Canada. Um, in my personal opinion, I think it would be easier to make some larger dents in Canada than in the U.S. because there's no tax exemption here, and I hope to get into doing some projects and stuff like that to yeah, to just me, you know what? At the least, just be a pain in the butt. Just be annoying, like a flea or something or a fly. And yeah, thank you, Susan. That was very nice of you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we just need to be annoying here in Canada, and then support our friends in the US and all over, because we're pretty much in this together. And if it's not a shoulder to shoulder effort, it's just gonna all the abuses are gonna continue. And I mean, I've told my story, how Scientology completely destroyed my family, and I was on Aaron's channel. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, and I have, and also I told my story on Alex's channel. Um, and yeah, it's they need to go. They really need to go, or they need to be like reformed and stop doing the shit that the stuff that they're doing. It's not okay. It's very destructive. They're committing crimes, and it's okay that you don't know how to pronounce my name. It's not your fault. You were in a cult when my song is, oh, Sharona. Oh my God, I love that song. Okay, so this is how you pronounce Sharona. Beautiful name. So were your parents like, did they like the knack? Is that how you got your name, I wonder? I have no idea how I got my name, and I hated my name when I was a kid. It's also very hard to pronounce when you're little. Anyways, cool name. Thanks, Sharona. I'm never gonna forget that now. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna shut up now. Let y'all go back to whatever you were doing and have a marvelous evening. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble on. It's very, very appreciated. Y'all have a good night. Bye now.